All right, take it away, Christine.
All right. Welcome to our new podcast.
Gosh, we're such losers.
This is episode 1.
I'm
happy to have you.
So nervous. Maybe we should say what it's called. This is called And That's Why I Drink. That's why we drink. Shit.
And that's why we drink. And that is a perfect example of why we drink. So great start to our podcast. This is episode 1.
Yes, it is. How would you like to describe this podcast?
Well, and that's
probably our parents.
Yeah, probably.
Because no one else is listening yet.
Mom and Dad. So this podcast is about why we drink.
I guess I should say I drink milkshakes specifically.
Sure, yes. And I drink just anything with alcohol in it.
So we just cover all of the calories.
Right, exactly.
In 2 people.
Yeah, and we were thinking about why we drink, and there are a lot of reasons to be drinking milkshakes and or wine.
I think, specifically, the reason I drink as the reason you drink is because we really like murder and ghosts.
Yeah. I mean, the world is a scary place.
So, that's mainly why we drink, and that's mainly what we're going to talk about in this podcast.
Exactly. So M over here.
Yeah.
Or do you want to be called Emily?
Oh, no.
M.
Oh, yeah.
So M over here. She's going to be covering the paranormal side of why we drink.
That's the truth. Mm-hmm. And you're going to cover anything true and bloody.
That is right. And my name is Christine.
Good for you.
By the way.
You did a great job.
I introduced you.
Oh, whoops.
So we're M and Christine.
We are.
Or Christine and M, whichever you prefer.
Yeah. I was going to make a celebrity nickname for us, but there's not a good one.
Oh, Creme?
Like crime. No, that's stupid. Let's not stick with that. Okay, well.
Moving on.
What, is there anything, before we just...
Well, do you want to talk about what you're drinking tonight? Just like your drink of choice for the day.
Yeah.
Just before we get started.
I mean, I'm just going with a simple chocolate-based milkshake today.
Classic.
With whipped cream. I wanted to make it a special occasion.
All the stops, yeah.
And I see you're already down a whole drink.
Half of one. So my drink of choice this evening is a lovely red
Box.
from good old Trader Joe's.
Boxed
Comes
one.
from a box made of cardboard, but it's good for the environment.
Well, my milkshake came from a fast food restaurant, so it probably also came out of a box.
Exactly.
So we're doing a good job.
Just to specify, it's a Cabernet Sauvignon.
Good.
California.
Good. Because the last time I asked you what you were drinking, you didn't even know. It was just
a box.
So, should we talk about how we became friends, or how we how we realized we're both sick in the head?
Sure. We both have problems. And we have mutual respect for one another's problems.
I don't remember how we told each other that we both like this kind of stuff.
This is true. I mean,
because we became friends here or in Boston. We knew each other in Boston.
We went to grad school in Boston together before moving out to LA.
Right. And we separately moved out to LA, and then we were the only people we knew, so we just became friends by force.
It worked.
And then luckily we were both into really gory, horrible murders.
Right, just everything bad.
Yeah.
So it really cemented our friendship.
I think the first time we ever actually talked about this stuff was Halloween.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Because you wanted me to come over and tell you ghost stories.
Yeah, I just demanded it, really. And I was like, come tell me ghost stories.
I didn't have a milkshake, but you certainly had your wine.
I always do.
So I think that was the first time we talked about it, but then I realized you were one of my people, because...
Oh.
So, is there, before we get into stories, is there a personal murder or anything like that you are...
Let me tell you about a personal murder in my life.
I mean, like a personal, like what was the story that, like, caught your eye and got you into this stuff?
Oh, I see. Oh my, there were probably a lot of those.
What's, like, the first one where you were just like, yes, this is where my interests now lie officially?
I've always been interested in serial killers.
Okay, like since birth.
So anyway, in preschool, I had an affinity for blood and gore.
That means you're a little bit of a sociopath.
I think the thing was that I found out about Reddit, and I found these. My brother told me about these, subreddits, unsolved mysteries, true crime, like Let's Not Meet, and I was like, I just spent all hours of the night reading them, and it was a problem, and it still is. So here we are today.
We're making good out of we're making lemonade out of lemons.
I'm trying anyway.
I've always been into the paranormal since I can remember. I've seen a lot of shit in my day. And
your story's way cooler than mine.
I saw my first ghost when I was 7.
Oh my god.
And it's just gotten extra neat every time I see my ghost since.
I just want to hear you talk about that all day.
So I decided to start looking into other ghost stories.
Love it.
Anyway.
And here we are combining our mutual...
Before we start drinking specifically about murder and things we can't escape, like death, is there any personal reasons why you drink this week?
Oh, let's think about that.
How have you disappointed your parents today?
The ways I've disappointed my parents. And reasons why I drink. I would say this week I drink because I have an improv show tomorrow and it's terrorizing me.
I'm nervous for you.
I'm so nervous.
I'm not even going to be there, and I feel like I'm going to know in my heart when you get on the stage, and I'm going to be, like, my core is going to be rocked. I'm going to be like, oh.
Yeah, I'm not.
It's almost terrified. As if I'm on the stage.
But, yeah, we'll see how it goes. Well, I'll let you know, tomorrow if I've disappointed, everyone and anyone that I know.
I mean,
in my performance.
Good luck.
Thanks.
I'm drinking on a personal level because I lost my credit card.
Oh, God, that's a tough one.
And if it weren't for my mother to get me out of yet another jam in my life...
They always do.
I was going to have the bank. I basically was going to go without money for a week, and I have $40 to my name, and my gas tank is really empty, and I live in LA, so $40 is just about one tank of gas.
We'll get you to work and back one time.
Yeah. So that was how I disappointed my mom, where she ended up texting me, and she was like, do you need me to do this for you? Do you need me to fix your problem? I was like, yes, you do.
You know the answer to that.
Yes, please. Why else am I drinking?
There's so many reasons.
There's a good amount.
A plethora, as you will.
Oh, here's one. I'm about to move.
Oh, wow, yeah.
And I haven't told my roommate yet that I'm leaving.
Awkward.
And I'm leaving pretty darn soon. So it's going to be in his hands to find someone. And the longer I wait, the shorter time he has to find someone. So I already feel bad for what I'm doing to him, and he doesn't know it yet.
I mean, we can make this like ways we've disappointed our roommates, because that also is like
or ourselves.
Pretty telling segment.
Every day I wake up and I'm like, ugh, not married
it's
yet.
Me again.
Every time my mom texts me, you found anyone? I just gulp down a milkshake.
And that's why we drink, folks.
All right, well, let's move on to some good...
The meat of the podcast.
Meat and potatoes.
Oh, yeah.
Are you feeling murder? Are you feeling...
I feel like I want to hear your story. I feel like I've
got such a good one, too. I've got such a good one.
It's aching to hear it.
Oh, my goodness. Okay, well, I'm going to whip out my notes.
Whip it out, baby.
All right.
I
brought multiple notes of multiple kinds. I have like a Blues Clues handy dandy notebook.
Oh, great.
And I've got several pages of notes here.
Legal pad.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to pour myself a...
Yeah. Get gulping. All right.
And settle in for...
So, I'm going to ask you, before I get into this, and I hope you say yes, because I don't have another story to tell you. How do you feel about rich women building mazes out of castles to run away from ghosts?
Well, I actually have strong feelings about that then.
What
in God's name are you talking about?
I'm about to tell you all about your future.
I was going to say, this really sounds like something out of my personal diary.
Let's dive right into the Winchester Mystery House.
Oh, I'm so ready.
This is a place I love. I've been there. I went with a friend.
Where is it?
It's in San Jose.
Okay.
Which is only a couple hours from us.
Yeah.
It is a national landmark. I feel like I should bring that up because people will be like, will it be up forever? And now it certainly will.
It will.
Except California's due for an earthquake, so we'll see.
It'll be in the ocean soon.
All right, so let's get right into the Mystery House.
Tell me.
Also known as the Spirit House. And I didn't know this. It's one of the most haunted houses in America.
Even better.
I didn't even know ghosts were involved until I researched this.
I'm so ready.
And then it went from 0 to 60.
Yeah.
All right. The Winchester family. Have you heard of Winchester rifles, the gun?
I have.
Okay. This is a family about them.
Okay.
Or this is about their family. Wow.
How much milkshake have you?
Maybe I need to take a nap. Let's do it after I tell the story, though. All right. William Winchester was the treasurer of that company. His father was one of the founders, so they're both involved in this. Mm-hmm. He married a girl named Sarah, who becomes the main character of this story. And this is in New Haven, Connecticut. I liked that this story, very serendipitous, I think, because we met in Boston.
We did.
And Boston has a little cameo in here.
Ooh.
And it ends in California just like us.
Oh my gosh, how fitting.
I do what I can. So, William Winchester married Sarah, and they lived in New Haven, Connecticut, and they had a daughter who died pretty quickly.
Sad.
I think only a couple weeks after her birth.
Oh.
Yeah, she died like right away.
Really?
So that immediately puts Sarah, our main character, in quite a spiral now that she's childless.
Understandable.
From there, in 1881, because this is a long time ago, in 1881, William and his father-in-law, who's also involved in the company, they both die within like a week of each other. And those were like her only family. So she's got her daughter dead, her husband dead, and her father-in-law dead. So here's the upside, besides being widowed and childless. She inherits all of both of their share.
Oh, wow.
So this girl inherited almost 50% of the company and a fortune of, get that wine glass ready because you're going to wish you were her. She gets a fortune of, at the time, $20 million.
Damn.
Which in today's world is $500 million.
Oh my God.
And she gets that in a lump sum, and then after that earns a daily income of $1,000 a day, which in today's world, because I checked with an inflation calculator, is just over $25,000 a day.
I hate my life.
Oh, that glass is mysteriously empty. No.
It will be soon.
So imagine just, waking up one day, checking your bank account, you got $500 million, and then every day for the rest of your life you make $25,000 extra dollars.
I can't even imagine.
It would be a nice time, except ghosts are also involved, so get ready for
also
that.
your whole family's dead, but
Yeah, she has no one to share with, but that also means more money for her.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so with all this money, you would think her life's going well, but she's crazy depressed because her family's just all dead.
Sure.
And she still lives in Connecticut at this time and gets... basically, she's so depressed she doesn't know what to do. She thinks that there's a curse on the family. Mm-hmm. And so she goes to a medium in Boston, known as the Boston Medium, apparently. Because in the 1880s, maybe there was just one.
The only one.
So the Boston Medium, he tells her that she was right, that the family's cursed and it's haunted by all of the spirits of people who have died from the Winchester guns.
Oh.
So any apparently Indians at the time, any Civil War soldiers, and any people that just got...
a lot of people.
A whole darn lot of people. So, he says that the only way to appease the spirits is to move west and build a house for them. And...
Oh, that's very specific.
I think so. And also, it makes me wonder... Did he just do this just to be like, let's see if she does it?
Right, that's what I'm thinking.
I mean, if you're a medium in the 1800s, which probably you didn't need a lot of proof.
Right.
You could just walk around and be like...
a TLC show to be like...
Right. You could probably just be like, oh, I'm a medium, by the way. And
Boston medium, to be specific.
I'm the only one who's claiming it, so I guess I'm the one.
And I can make you move out to California.
Why don't you just get out of my hair? The ghosts are after you.
All these American Indians just want you dead.
I think he was having a bet amongst himself. And
could be.
Anyway, so that's
a weird request, but anyway.
So he said, go west, and so she ended up moving to what is now San Jose.
Okay.
I don't know what it was then. I think, it doesn't matter. It's San Jose now.
Yep.
And apparently there was some other reason that like documents say that she moved for some other reason, like her sister was moving out there, so she followed or something like that. But I think those are the skeptics trying to make up stuff.
I see.
Because her sister who moved out with her didn't hang out for very long. Like,
so she pieced out?
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe because she found out her sister's crazy. Let's find out why. So in 1884, she's now in San Jose, and she bought a farmhouse with 8 bedrooms, which by the end of the story, 8 bedrooms sounds like nothing. It sounds like it's not a big house at all. And she started construction immediately. She started construction, and it did not end. Oh, this is the other thing I forgot to tell you. The Boston Medium says you have to build a house out west for them, and if construction were to ever stop, you will be the next one to die.
What?
Yeah. That's actually a pretty...
What's this guy's deal? Or is it a lady? The medium.
The medium is a boy. His name is Adam Coons.
I feel like he has some issues.
Maybe one of his parents were killed with a Winchester rifle.
Oh, could be.
And he's like, all right, let's do this.
Revenge.
So he says construction has to be going on nonstop or else you'll die. So she buys this farmhouse and construction begins immediately. And until she died 38 years later, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year for 38 years, this house had nonstop construction.
What? Like, what were they doing?
You will soon find out. You are jumping ahead of me.
Impatient.
So, construction around the clock, which, by the way, I would fucking hate.
Yeah, why? Yeah.
I imagine trying to sleep in this house and you just have, like, nails
It's like hammering.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was 1800, so I can't imagine there were power tools, but, you know, there's still...
hammers and stuff like that.
I mean, it was going to be annoying no matter what. So, here's the thing. She was still paranoid about the spirits coming to get her or finding her in the house or having maybe in her world, maybe they tricked the medium and so they were going to build a house and then they were going to kill her anyway. So she built this house. Since it had to be nonstop for essentially her life, she was like, I might as well just build whatever the fuck I want. And so she built it so that it's so complex and so bizarre and so out there that her hope was to trick the ghosts into never finding her.
Well, that makes a lot of sense.
Let me just read a couple things. Let me just read a couple things to blow your mind. So the house starting was on 6 acres. It was an 8-bedroom house on 6 acres. The house ended up being 6 acres.
Oh, God.
It was 24,000 square feet with 7 floors. Only, and I say only because originally there were 500 to 600 bedrooms or different rooms in general, and it dwindled down to 160.
Casual.
10,000 windows, 2,000 doors, 52 skylights, 47 fireplaces, 40 of the 160 rooms were bedrooms, 40 staircases, 13 bathrooms, 6 kitchens, 3 elevators, 2 basements, and 1 shower.
1 shower?
In 13 bathrooms.
Okay. 40 bedrooms.
I think in the 1880s, though, a shower was, like, very bougie.
That's true.
You couldn't just throw those around.
That's
like, you
a
could
good
throw
point.
around 2,000 doors.
Bedrooms.
So, but let's also talk about, it's not just a giant mansion. Oh, also a fun fact about this was last year, originally they were saying for the last 40, 50 years that there was 160 rooms left. Mm-hmm. In October, they found another hidden room.
Creepy.
No, the creepy part is when they opened up the room, the only thing that was in there was an old Victorian couch and a antique doll staring at the door.
I fucking knew you were going to say it was a doll, and I was like, no way.
I swear to you.
Are you kidding with me?
The house also took 20,000 gallons of paint, and if you did the whole house, it took 20,000 gallons of paint. So let's talk about not just how much and how big the sizes were of this place. I'm going to tell you about some of the things that she did to trick these ghosts. You ready?
I'm ready.
There were trap doors, false passageways, stairs that lead to the ceiling, stairs that lead to the walls, doors that open into walls. So you just open a door and there's cement or brick there. Windows in the middle of the room, so you could just like walk a 360 around the window. Windows that looked out into nothing, like they just looked into a random corridor. A skylight in the floor, skylights between floors, so you could like walk and then look down and see another floor. What else? There were like all the posts, like let's say like on the top of a railing there was like a post that ended to be all pretty
post.
upside down.
What?
Like, or they'd be like sticking out of walls.
Okay.
She had chimneys that were either so tall that they would go through like 4 floors, or chimneys that were too short and you could see between the chimney and the ceiling, and it never actually like opened up. It was just a giant brick chimney that led to nothing.
How is she directing these people? She was just like, make half.
She was probably you and just drinking a lot of boxed wine. She was like, throw a door there.
That is going to be me someday.
There was also a seance room for her to communicate to the ghosts with.
So she wanted to communicate.
She, I think, was communicating to be like, is this good enough for you? Is this good? I would.
I thought she was hiding from them, but she also wanted to please.
I think maybe she had a central hub.
I understand.
I've been to this house, and I'm telling you, it's a trip. Like, everything I read to you is true.
I can't even imagine what it would...
It was the craziest thing, and I went on... They have different types of tours. They have like a flashlight tour at night that they do during like Halloween. They have like a grand estate tour because there's also like greenhouses and gardens. She has a ballroom that cost $9,000 back then when a house cost less than $1,000.
Oh my God.
So she had a ballroom like 10 times as extravagant as a house.
So is it like a museum now? Mm-hmm. Okay.
And now the original caretakers of it, now their sons and grandsons are the people who run it. Like, it's like stayed in the family to like maintain it.
So is it haunted?
It certainly is. So let's see, where was I? In 1906 there was an earthquake, and she got trapped in one of her 40 bedrooms because one of them was bound to trap her, and she took it as a sign that the spirits thought that she was spending too much money decorating and not enough time like focusing on why she was trying to appease them or something like that. So she told them to seal up that whole section of the house, which is where they found that hidden room. Oh. And then she just moved away, and she would visit regularly to like make sure that they were still building.
Moved out of the house?
She moved out of the house.
Oh, okay.
And then she would come back all the time to like make sure they were still doing construction, because if they stopped, then she thought she was going to die. So after that, she stayed out of the house. She didn't live in the house, but for the next 16 years, she would visit every day. And she'd keep giving them lavish ideas of what she needed to do. And like she would do things where she would tell like one of the maintenance workers, I want you to paint the entire room like red walls, red floor, red ceiling, red doors, everything red. And then as soon as he finished, she would be like, tear it up, paint everything white.
Oh my God.
Just to give them something to do.
Sounds like a nightmare.
I mean, she sounds like the producers we work with.
Yeah. I was going to say, I recognize.
He's like, do the impossible, now do it again.
You did it all wrong.
But so she would have them build. That's why originally there was like 500 or 600 rooms, because they would build them just to tear them down, just to rebuild them, just to make them look entirely different. Because all that she was told was they have to keep working on it.
That's nuts.
So in 1922, she died at 83. So she beat those ghosts to it. She certainly did her job. And construction ended at that point. But the weird thing is, like, I guess the people that did maintenance on the house for 38 years were the same people the entire time. So, like, they knew her inside and out. Sure. And I guess they also had experienced some paranormal stuff going on there, because I guess they all had an understanding that the second that she died, that they had to stop construction entirely, because that otherwise there's no point in building anymore. So when she died, like, they stopped like mid hammering a nail. And so like if you go into the museum, you can still see nails that are half driven in from where people found out that she died. And when she ended up leaving, leaving Earth, leaving our world, they ended up taking all the furniture out. I guess like in her will, she gave everything to like a niece or something. And she, excuse me, when they were taking everything out, like all the furniture, it took 8 truckloads a day for 6.5 weeks to get everything out of that house. Because when you have like 1,000 rooms, oh my God, and you lavishly decorate every single one of them, like imagine how much stuff is in there.
And they left the ball.
I mean, but keep in mind, like, let's not forget, she made $25,000 a day. And she was just spending money. Like, she would just buy the most, like golden Victorian couches. like that a
crazy.
prince sat on, I'm sure. So she, once they moved everything out, new people just bought it, I guess, like 10 years later, and turned it into an attraction, made it a landmark, and then it became open to the public.
Okay.
Before I get into the specific ghosts, I do want to tell you another weird thing about her, which in that list of chaos that made up her house, I did say that she has 13 bathrooms. She had a weird thing about the number 13, and a lot of the house had characteristics of 13 in it. So let's get into that.
Creepy.
So, the entrance hall, one of many, I presume, they were all divided into 13 sections. All of the stairs had 13 steps, which it actually is common in a lot of houses, but hers were like tiny steps. Like even if there didn't need to be steps, like she would make 13 little tiny steps go up, so you had to go down 13 little steps to be in the same room.
Creepy.
She had like windows had 13 window panes, wall panels. There were 13 wall panels per room before reaching the 13th bathroom. And in the 13th bathroom, there were 13 windows with 13 panes that all had 13 candles. And every banister had 13 railings. The elevators had 13 panels. The greenhouse had 13 like glass little, like, what is it called? Like a cupola?
Francis Ford.
That's a person.
Wrong.
No, the thing that's like, it like pops out of a roof.
A chimney?
Sure, it's not, but
I know that word.
Stop.
Cupola.
I'm not sure either of us know what we're talking about.
We have master's degrees.
Not in vocabulary.
In case you guys were wondering.
13 holes in all of her drains. All the ceilings had 13 tiles on them. The chandeliers all had 13 bulbs or like actual candles. And I guess the way that they were all manufactured then is they all had 12. And she would have every chandelier that came into that house and be installed with an extra spot. And the seance room had 13 hooks for 13 different robes that she would wear for every 13 meetings that she had with the ghosts to be like, don't kill me.
Oh my.
And when she died, this is the weirdest part, when she died, she had 13 sections to her will, and she signed it 13 times.
So what with the 13? Is that like...
I don't know. I looked everywhere. There's a theory that people were just looking for 13s everywhere to like make her sound crazier than she was. But I mean, she already looks pretty crazy.
I mean, that's a lot of... I mean, if she had people install a 13th...
I mean, though, like, people are saying that they went in after she died and did all of this shit to the house.
That seems like a lot of work to...
I think so.
Make somebody look...
I don't know. But, so anyway, let's get into the ghosts. This is just a couple of the paranormal things that have happened to not just the people who worked there, but the visitors now. Okay. Because there are no documents of her actually having experiences herself with the ghost. She like refused to like put them on paper. I don't know. But when it comes to like all of the people that worked there, they all reported stuff. Like,
sure.
I mean, they all stayed with her for like 40 years. If I didn't think the place was actually haunted and I was working for someone who made me like build like a labyrinth every day, I'd be like, no, see ya.
Yeah, and also she had a seance room, so...
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. If I had to build a seance room and didn't believe there were ghosts in that house, I would have left. So people who stayed there for like 40 years and then their ancestors are now working there.
Yeah.
There's something, I think, going on.
Something's up.
So, this is the common thing that most people experience. The first one is temporary blindness.
What?
People, like, on tours just stop seeing.
That's terrifying.
Yeah. I don't know about it, but there have been multiple... I did my research. Let's just say I called the house today, and I was like, what's going on? And they were like, yeah, people literally in the middle of I want to call it a maze, but I guess it's a tour. They'll just like freak out and be like, is it dark in here? Did you turn all the lights off? And they're like, oh no, this is normal.
Like, you're just blind.
You're just blind.
It'll
now.
Pass.
Icy chills, like not just cold spots, but cold followings, like icy chills that won't leave them alone. They'll get like handprints on their arms, like someone was holding on to them while they walked around. They'll hear organ music, which is something that she played. Apparently she had arthritis, so she played the organ to like keep circulation in her hands or something. A lot of moving lights, and specifically big red flashes of light in her room.
Ooh, what does that mean?
I don't know. Red isn't a good color usually.
Yeah, it seems ominous.
Okay, so in the seance room in 1975, one paranormal investigator brought a bunch of reporters, and they did a seance in her seance room.
Why?
Because people are fucking crazy. So the reporter, and this is a quote, the investigator, her name was Jean Borgen. And the reporter wrote in, I guess it like got published in some sort of investigative, not journal, like nothing that great, but like a magazine.
Sure.
It said, Borgen's face aged right in front of my eyes. Her hair grayed and she formed deep crease lines in her forehead. She experienced staggering pain and was unable to walk. And right before she passed out, she screamed, "Help me, someone get me out of here." And then she passed out. And all of the reporters just sat there, probably crying their eyes out or pooping their pants. One of the two.
All of the above, probably. God.
Yeah. So I just think that's pretty interesting.
That is terrifying.
Another thing is employees will regularly hear their name throughout the house when they're like closing up and they have to go through that goddamn castle by themselves.
Nope.
The kitchens, there's 6 of them. They all smell like soup. Like if you walk through, sometimes you'll smell soup, like it's cooking over a stove. And they took the stove out, but where the stove used to be, sometimes people will feel like hot spots, as if soup is cooking.
Did she just really like soup? Is that?
I don't know. But can you imagine making soup like on floor 1 and you want to go eat it on floor 7? By the time you get there, your soup's cold.
Floor 7.
So frustrating.
In bedroom 860.
So the caretakers, when they lock all the doors at night, they'll regularly go back to like check like a couple hours later. Like they have like nonstop security.
Yeah.
And all the doors will be unlocked and the doors are wide open.
Oh, great.
Another thing is one caretaker heard the sound. Like he had to like monitor a room because apparently there was talk of stuff going on in there. Like people just felt really weird, and so they had someone stay. I think this wasn't actually a caretaker. I think it was someone from a paranormal team that went in and did a lockdown. He heard what sounded like a screw coming undone for like 5 minutes, and then he like just ignored it, and a couple minutes later, like 3 screws fell from the ceiling, like just fell like right in front of him. After he heard them
were
turning,
unscrewing themselves. That's terrifying.
I know. Can you imagine if you're again on floor 1 and like all of a sudden the whole house just falls on you?
Well, that's great. That's just great.
So the last paranormal experience that was worth mentioning is when they started doing tours in the 2000s, they wanted to do a quote behind the scenes tour, and so they were opening up like the basement and other places that were usually like you couldn't get access to them on the tour. And one of the things that they used to have the employees do when they weren't giving tours is they would have to like clean out those places.
Okay.
While they were like sweeping and organizing it to like get it tour ready, I guess it was a couple months of them getting everything ready, and they had a bunch of maintenance people around that were new hires just to help temporarily, and everyone kept seeing this guy in like a hat with like white worker clothes and like coveralls and a mustache, and he was carrying around a wheelbarrow a lot. Like everyone saw him with a wheelbarrow, and people kept going up to their supervisors being like, "Who's that guy? Like he doesn't talk to anyone. Like he just always kind of hangs out in the back." And every time they were like, "I have a list right here of everyone working. I don't know who that guy is. Like, I don't know who you're talking about. I haven't seen him, but he's not on the list."
Oh my God.
And probably 4 or 5 people kept saying, "There's a guy with a mustache and white coveralls, and he's always with a wheelbarrow walking around, like, in the garden with us, like, getting everything ready." And so they kept digging out this basement to like get ready for the tour, and they were pulling out all this old stuff that was never really seen before, and one of the pictures, he was in the picture. Yes. And they still have that picture.
Are you kidding?
They have it hanging now in the basement that they show people, and he's apparently like right in the picture, and they're like, "This guy watched us get the basement ready."
That's terrifying.
Yeah.
I got chills.
I'm glad.
Spooky.
That was the whole point of this. Anyway, the end. The Winchester Mystery House.
And
that's why I drink.
We'll work on that, guys.
We'll get it.
We'll get it someday.
Oh, that milkshake's tasty. Now, enlighten me on this murder.
All right, here we go. Tonight, I'm going to tell everyone about the Jonestown massacre.
Yes, I love it. I love it.
And I know this is a well-known one, but
I love it. I will tell you that I don't know everything about it.
Yeah,
but everyone knows something.
I just feel like there's a lot of weird details that maybe not everybody knows.
I believe you.
You know.
Also, we grew up. I feel like our parents grew up at a time where it was definitely heard about. And now we kind of hear it secondhand as if it used to be like a popular thing.
Exactly. Like you hear like drink the Kool-Aid, but not everybody knows where that comes from.
Exactly. Well, I guess it comes from Jonestown. Tell me all about it.
You would be right.
I'm excited.
So speaking of crazy people.
I'm ready.
Yeah, so there was this guy named Jim Jones. He was from Indiana, and
where they all come from, by the way.
See, it all started in the Midwest.
You know who else comes from Indiana? 11 from Stranger Things.
Yeah, and I'm from Ohio, next door.
I'm not.
So
I dodged that bullet.
Yeah, the Midwest is a scary place.
Take it away.
So in 1956, this guy named Jim Jones decided he was going to start this cool cult. Which I guess he probably didn't describe as a cult. I'm pretty sure he described it as a church, quote unquote.
Like a neat club.
Yeah, fun club for everyone. It was called the People's Temple. So he wanted to build this sort of utopia, and he called it communist, and he said, I want everyone to be. He adopted all these like interracial kids and wanted just inclusion of, all races and ethnicities. So in 1966, 10 years later, he moved his church to California and started. He actually the way he made enough money to establish this church was actually by selling imported monkeys door to door as pets. The way we all do.
I was gonna say I think he stole that job out from under me. But
making ends meet.
We're all doing something in California to make the money work.
Yeah.
What you're telling me is he just joined the LA struggle.
If one of us. Really.
If there were monkeys to sell, I would sell them in a heartbeat.
Yes, and I'd probably buy one because that's the kind of thing I do with my money.
I wouldn't take one because there's bread to be made there, and with the money I make, I can't afford a monkey. Yeah, I can certainly afford to sell one.
We'll look into that.
Did they tell you at all how much the monkey cost, or was he selling like black market?
I think they were black market. It said they were imported, and he was selling them as exotic pets. So I imagine it wasn't the most, governmentally overseen project.
The thing that is interesting to me immediately is that you said 1956?
Yes, 66 at this point.
1966.
Actually. Yes.
I don't know, like, when I think of the 60s, because I wasn't there, I just think of, like, I guess a bunch of hippies, but never in a book did I see a single monkey.
Okay, listen, I got something for you.
Okay.
So my stepmom, who may or may not be listening to this, her older brother, when her parents were out of town, bought a bear from a catalog.
A bear? From a catalog?
Yeah. And
that's two weird things in one sentence.
It was either the 60s or 70s, but they bought a bear as children. And
what catalog was this? Can I have a copy?
Well, that's what I'm saying. I feel like, things were way cooler.
Well, everyone was just smoking weed. Of course you could just build a catalog out of animals.
Buy zoo animals out of a catalog. So they literally bought a bear and they kept it in their playroom, and it escaped one day, and then it ended up at the Cincinnati Zoo, and then it died. But this was a long time ago. But so it truly happened. They bought a zoo animal, and then their parents let them keep it because, like, what the hell else are they going to do?
That's the stuff that they need to teach us in history class, because when I hear that it was, like, the era of psychedelic drugs,
sure,
I don't hear, you could just buy an animal out of a magazine, like Sky Mall.
Keep a zebra in your bathroom. It's like Sky Mall. The best of Cupola.
I don't know about you, but I'm always reading up on Sky Mall.
Oh, yeah, you can buy like $300 gnomes, like garden gnomes in Sky Mall.
Okay, so let's just pretend that buying and selling monkeys in the 60s was a normal thing.
Sure, so that's what happened. And speaking of normal things, he had everyone in his church call him either father or dad. He described himself as Christ and announced at one point that he considered himself God. And he also took a lot of drugs, may or may not be related.
Well, we weren't just discussing that at all.
Speaking of the 60s. So he had this like crazy paranoia, and he was convinced that the FBI and CIA were after him, which like they probably should have been if they were not.
I feel like if I'm a cop and someone's importing monkeys and I know about it, I'm not doing my job right if he's not in jail.
Right, and is also like the head of a cult where he thinks he's Jesus Christ. But
yeah, call me daddy and I'll sell you a monkey.
Minor details. Sounds about right. So he heard that there was this expose about because his church was kind of growing, and like from the outside it looked like, okay, he's just creating some, religious group and whatever, standard 60s procedure, I guess.
I want to join the religion where monkeys are involved.
Yeah, I know, but he left the monkeys behind
Okay.
and decided that before they printed this article about him, he was going to move his entire cult to Guyana.
The
South
holiest
America.
of lands.
So he said he took hundreds of his members, he had hundreds of members at this point, flew them all down to Guyana in 1973. He found a remote section of jungle. They didn't have the internet or like Zillow back then, so I don't know how he.
So he just said, find me in jungle.
He's like, I found an Airbnb in Guyana. And leased it from the government, which, whatever. And he called it Jonestown, because I guess back in the 60s you could also just create towns named after
You could just Christopher Columbus, whatever the hell you wanted.
Exactly.
Here it is.
So Jonestown was his like utopian quote unquote settlement. So he moved hundreds of people down there. And over time, people kept coming. And
did they ever tell you how many?
yes. And
Am I jumping
considering
ahead?
the ending of the story, you will find out how many people ended up being a part of this fun church.
I know the ending. I can't wait to get there.
Exactly. So hundreds of people are kind of like flooding into this place. And it was not as utopian as people had expected. So it was like a small amount of space. They didn't have enough cabins for everybody. So there were all these bunk beds. They were basically like crammed in. They had to work these crazy long shifts every day, like 11, 12-hour days. They were generous.
Again, it still sounds like Los Angeles.
Like our lives, except without the exotic monkeys.
Right. Just a better LA then.
So the cabins were also gender specific, so like married couples were split up. The heat was just miserable, so people were getting sick. And this guy, I guess he was just like kind of going nuts, and he was doing a lot of drugs at this point. So he was spending a lot of time talking into a loudspeaker over the PA system. So people just had to spend all day and night listening to him kind of rant about like his philosophies.
The worst.
I know, like my own personal hell. But so they were surrounded by jungle and armed guards, so they like had nowhere to go. So enter Congressman Leo Ryan. So this guy...
Is he a good guy or a bad guy?
He's a good guy.
Good. I can't wait to hear all about him.
His name is Leo, and he was a congressman from the U.S. And he heard...
Congressman Leo? Really?
Congressman Leo's name was Leo.
He was a congressman.
He worked in Congress. So he heard kind of like these reports coming back that Jonestown was a little fishy, and family members of the people who were there were like, can you please like go fucking check out what's happening to my sister-in-law or whatever. Right. So he was like, I'm going to go investigate. So he brought his advisor, an NBC film crew.
Good for him.
I know.
Get that shit on tape.
And even relatives who wanted to come with and see like what was up with their family.
Okay.
Who were concerned. So he shows up and everything like looks okay. They put on this show for him and he's like, okay, it's not
So they knew
bad.
he was coming. He didn't just like...
Yeah, they knew he was coming.
Okay.
I don't
just,
know
like,
how they communicated.
surprised.
I mean, I'm like a millennial. I don't understand how people communicated before cell phones.
I think about that all the time.
Right?
I think about that all the time.
Letters from? Is there a post office in the jungle in Guyana?
Like, do you just hope someone air mails it one day?
Yeah, and it'll get to you in like a year. I don't know.
Like
how it
maybe
works.
Morse code.
Yeah, maybe. Well,
my thought that I had with my Uber driver that I had a couple weeks ago, and I agree with him. He was like, what was the world like before? Like, we were the first generation that just started immediately independently on credit cards. Like, we never just carried around, like, I carried around cash when I was like 14.
Sure.
But the second I fled the coop, I already had a credit card.
Right. Same.
But before credit cards, like, people just, you just have wads of money? Or, like, did you just keep it in the bank and you always had your checkbook on you? I guess that's...
I guess.
But, I mean...
were there ATM? I mean, you had ATMs.
We couldn't have an ATM if you don't have a card.
Oh, wait. With debit card? Okay.
You don't have cards. Cards are
there's
not
no
around.
cards. Okay.
There's cash, and then there's...
You hide your money under your mattress.
Because remember, people used to be like, cash or check. That was...
Oh,
you know what I mean?
I guess you literally just had a ton of checkbooks.
I mean, I guess that's why our parents used to freak the fuck out if they were like, oh, I lost my checkbook. And to me, I'm like, cool. Like, I've never touched one. Like,
sorry.
Like, I use my checkbook once a month to sign away my rent.
Oh, yeah.
I've never needed...
Every time I write a check, I have to Google how to write a check because I forget. Because I only do it like once a year. Also, this is why our parents drink, in case anyone was wondering.
This is why our parents drink, because they're...
conversations we have.
You know what I was asking earlier? Like, how'd you disappoint your parents this week?
Right.
You just did.
I did 1,000.
Just take a sip.
I just gotta go.
Just drink straight from the box.
All right, listen, at least I didn't murder a bunch of people, okay?
That's true.
Okay. Yeah.
Take it away. Take it away before we embarrass ourselves.
So, this guy... It'll happen. It's fine. It's only a matter of time. So this guy, this Congressman Leo, shows up. And they're like, oh, everything's fine and happy and wonderful. And they schedule this dance at the pavilion because there's a pavilion. And while he's there at this pavilion and thinking, okay, things aren't, I guess, as bad, someone slips him a note and it has a list of names on it of people who want to leave. And he realizes that there are people there being held against their will. So he goes, okay, I gotta fix this. So he makes this big announcement. He says, anyone that wants to leave Jonestown can come with me back to America. Like, no harm, no foul. I'll take you back with me. And only a few people, like I think it was a 20-something, said, okay, like we want to leave. And they decided to go.
Like, get me out.
Right. And before that, you needed this guy, Jim Jones, permission to leave. So they were like, we want to go with you. But everyone else was kind of too scared to go against.
So there's probably more than 20.
Their leader. Right.
Okay.
So they loaded these people up on a truck to the airport. So he was going to stay behind and make sure like no one else wanted to leave and everything was fine. But as they were getting ready to go, this guy runs up and grabs him and tries to slash his throat.
Oh no!
Surprise!
Like he was like basically like
he was like a member and he was, I guess, brainwashed or.
Oh, he was like one of the devout.
Yes, exactly. And he was like, you're screwing up our whole cult.
Jonestowners.
Church. Exactly.
Jonestownies, right? Wouldn't it be like a townie? Like a townie.
Like a townie.
You know, we'll just give him a nickname so many decades after this happened.
That's a cute nickname for someone who's trying to slash someone's throat.
Jonestownie.
So he was like, I'm going to slash your throat, but he was tackled by a bunch of people and they were like, you can't like fucking kill somebody.
Right.
A congressman. So this guy, Leo, was like, okay, I gotta go. Like, this is not a safe place. So he is like, I'm getting on this bus with you guys to the airport. They get to the airport and their plane is delayed. They're waiting for their plane.
Are they at an actual airport in the jungle?
It's like an airstrip, maybe? I don't know.
Okay, so like
there's a plane coming to get them. So
okay, it's probably like just in like a blank part of the woods.
Sure, exactly. There's just jungle. Like some ground where a plane is going to land.
All right.
You know how planes work.
You know how the jungle works.
They just land.
The jungle and their freaking tarmacs.
So he's like, they're waiting for their plane.
Uh-huh.
And all of a sudden, a truck from Jonestown shows up. And these members have guns.
Yeah.
And they start shooting.
No.
And they killed a bunch of people.
Not all of them.
There were a couple survivors, but most people were killed. NBC, like a camera guy.
They were so close.
Like journalists. The Congressman, Leo, unfortunately, was killed.
No. That probably actually helped the world when they were like, oh, you killed a congressman.
Well, not quite. Because, so as this was happening, Jim Jones assembled everyone in the pavilion and he said, you know what? He's freaking out. He's like, something is going to happen at the airport. He goes, I'm not behind it.
The airport.
Quote unquote.
The jungle airport.
The jungle runway.
Jungle Airways. My milkshake is basically gone, by the way. I can
tell.
I'm stress eating about this.
You're a little losing it here.
I am. Let's go.
So he says, there's going to be an attack at the airport. And he goes, I'm not behind it. Of course not.
Right.
But someone is going to attack this congressman. And do you know what will happen? When the U.S. finds out that their congressman was attacked, they're going to come down on us. And they're going to torture us and kill us. And we got to do something about it.
Oh.
So he found out then, someone told him, like, yeah, Congressman Leo Ryan has been killed. And he said he started losing it. And he was like, there's actually, creepily enough, there's like a tape of this. And they
like
had
an audio
recorded. Yeah. So there's a tape of him explaining to everyone I know, it's really fucked up. I
I'm
read
gonna
the
have to go listen to
transcript.
that.
It's really scary. So he says, the group has no choice but to commit a revolutionary act, quote unquote. He said it is not suicide. It is a revolutionary act. And he says, we gotta end our lives here. He says if the U.S. comes in, if like, he kept calling them them, like if they come
Right,
in,
doing like the us, the
exactly,
us and them.
like the dehumanizing, like they're
Right. Making them an out-group.
Yeah, and he said they're gonna come in and torture our babies and kill us and
Right, he's saying this is like
the
better,
only-
a better,
right,
like
a
get out now
unifying-
before we find out how bad it gets.
Exactly. So there's this one woman. Her name's Christine Miller. She has the same name as me, and also she has the same birthday as me, which...
Oh, how did you research her specifically?
Looked her up. Yeah, because she was the one who said, no, like, we're not doing this.
So she was like the Rosa.
She was great. She was this African-American senior who had come on board with his group, and she went down with him, and she, apparently there was a history of her just like speaking her mind, which no one else, right? And no one else was allowed to do this, and
no one else was allowed. Like she was allowed, or she just didn't give a shit.
She just did it, and like he didn't. Like there were people,
like she was known to be like just like the one
like
who
she spoke her mind, and like other people who were troublesome were put in sensory deprivation boxes. They were drugged in the medical unit.
Oh no!
Some people were threatened to be shot on the spot and buried in the jungle. So she like was going against everything.
She's brave as shit.
Yeah, exactly.
If someone was like, "Oh, we could just shoot you in the head," I'd be like, "Well, my mouth is shut."
Exactly. And there was a time when he actually held a gun to her head, and she said, "Shoot me, but you'll have to respect me first." And I guess she said that 3 times, and finally he backed down. So this lady's a fucking badass.
Oh my gosh.
And my namesake.
Where is she today?
Well, she was like 70 when this happened.
Okay, so she's about 1,000,000 years old.
Dead. But I just feel like she's my namesake, and Mom and Dad, I know you didn't name me after her, but I'm just going to pretend you did.
Wow, I don't have a namesake that cool.
And we had the same birthday. I feel like it's really fitting.
Or really...
Or just like not fitting, and I just wish it were fitting.
Or destined. Let's just go with destined.
Well, I hope not, because her fate was not really great. So she said...
Eventually she stood up one too many times?
Well, yes. So she said... She fought back. And there's a tape of this too, and it's in the transcript. And she said, what about the children? And he said, if they were left behind, they'd be tortured and killed, and it's just not safe. And she said, like, we can't kill the children. And he was like, you're wrong. Like, this is part of our belief system. And she tried to use his own beliefs against him, but he just was not having it.
Good girl.
He was not having it.
Oh.
So finally the crowd actually turned on her and was like, you're done. And so like came in, and he said, okay, leave her alone. But like, this is still happening. So she kind of gave up because she had nothing, like, no, I mean, there were 1,000 people there, whatever, but nobody was going to be on her side.
At this point, did she just know she was going to die?
Yeah, so she...
Oh, no.
So, I mean, again, speaking of drink the Kool-Aid, they brought out large vats. It was actually Flavor Aid, not Kool-Aid, off-brand.
Guess they got it from the Dollar Tree.
They couldn't even spring for the name brand, but...
God forbid.
Flavor Aid, laced with cyanide.
What flavor? No, that's kind of a fucked up question to ask.
It's grape. I always imagine.
Really, I always think cherry.
I mean, cherry's a better flavor.
Because the Kool-Aid man, well, granted, this is Flavor Aid, so who knows what his cousin is up to. But every time you see the Kool-Aid guy, he's red. So I just assume all Kool-Aid in general is red. That's a really good
point. But maybe their branding had to, like, move... Well...
Maybe Flavor Aid is always purple. It doesn't really matter.
I'm really interested to know, but... I mean, there's no way.
I always assume it's either cherry, grape, or then like that blue tropical fruit raspberry.
Right.
Raspberries.
If they had that in like the 70s, I don't know. But yeah, so anyway, they brought out these large vats of Flavor Aid laced with cyanide and Valium. And I'm like, where are they getting enough Valium?
You can afford Valium for thousands of people, but thousands or hundreds?
Like 1,000.
Enough. Can you imagine getting a dosage of Valium strong enough to kill you for 1,000 people, but you're gonna go for Flavor Aid?
Men, women, and children. Right.
But God forbid.
And cyanide. Like, where are they getting this? And the other crazy thing is that they had practiced drills before. Like, they had done this many times, so it's unclear whether people there knew this was
That's a great point.
I
didn't even realize
they had done drills where he said, like, this is what happened. Like, and then 45 minutes in, he would say, it's just a drill. There's no cyanide in your Kool-Aid, whatever. So they'd done this before several times. So nobody knows if they even knew they were about to die.
Well,
I know.
I feel like I mean, if you're doing drills, like, no one's doing drills to drink Kool-Aid in an emergency. You know, if you, like, jumped into a jungle and they were like, here's your drill. Like, we got to practice this at the worst case scenario. This is what we're going to do. And they just brought out vats of poison-free Kool-Aid.
But they would do that. Like, he would wake them up at, like, 3 a.m. and be like, they're coming for us. They're coming for us. Everyone drink it. And they would drink it and feed it to their children.
Yeah,
and
but, like, what were
kidding.
they... Like, yes, I get that. But, like, they had to know that...
Oh, that it was coming?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Like, well, they had to know that, like, that plan was so they could kill themselves.
Exactly.
Okay.
Well, and
you don't just think, the people are coming, let's have a fucking rager with Flavor Aid.
Exactly. And feed it to our infants.
Yeah.
Well, but the thing was, like, people were dying. There was 1,000 people, so people were dying as people were in line to get their drink. So they knew.
They saw it happen.
So eventually...
You know, I don't mean to keep interrupting you.
No, please do.
Except my favorite thing to do is speak over you. So...
I'm used to it.
No, I watched a documentary on this before. I wasn't really paying attention. The only thing I remember is the end, because that was the part I cared about.
Kind of important, yeah.
But you're probably going to get into this, but they weren't just drinking it. Did you know about this?
I don't.
I'm about to, like, drop some shit
Do
on
it.
you. Some knowledge. No, so the people who, I guess, like Christine Miller, who...
The dissenters.
The people who, like, were a part of the resistance, essentially,
Sure.
where they're like, I don't want to die. They were then grabbing them out of the line, holding them out, and injecting it into them.
Oh, I heard that. I heard that was a theory.
No, I don't know if it's in the documentary it happened. And by documentary, it was one of those, like a reenactment movie.
Yeah.
So it wasn't really a documentary. It was like they made a movie about it, and there was a giant scene where they had, like, mothers who didn't want their kids to die. They were ripping the kids away, and then the mom had to watch the kid drink it, and then they held her down and injected it.
Right.
That was the part that...
I do know they made the dissenters go first because they also had armed guards with guns, so they were like, you either do it or we'll shoot you. But they said...
God.
And there were actually a couple of people who escaped, but I don't know much about that. But they kind of reported... I mean, a couple, as in, like, 2 or 3... but they actually, the children, they took syringes and poured it into their mouths because...
Like a baby who can't...
Right, because they couldn't drink. So they would
So you put something in their mouth, they're going to drink it.
And so they did the dissenters first because they were like, we got to get rid of them before...
That's so sad.
And so they died, and then all the believers, quote unquote, went afterwards, so it was
Because you could trust that they were going to do it. You know, I wonder... Like, I understand that there were some who were so brainwashed that they were, like, proud to do it at the end. And there were some people who, from the beginning, didn't want to do it and were forced into it. But I'm curious about that middle ground of people who... They were total believers until this day, and they were like, "Oh,
like, children are dying."
They're like, "I gotta do what?"
Like, they're literally pouring poison cyanide into infants' mouths.
Maybe I wonder how they felt, like, because that's just like that's an instant realization that you can't fix,
right?
It's like, this isn't a rumor. This is how this is happening.
And 912 people were killed that day, including 276 children.
276 children.
It's awful, almost a third. And so Jim Jones himself was actually killed by a single gunshot wound, and no one knows if it was self-inflicted or if someone, like, no one knows. I mean, presumably...
The movie I watched, he killed himself.
Presumably, they say, like, he probably killed himself, but there's no way to know because literally everyone was dead. Mm-hmm. So they actually brought the Air Force in with crews to tag and clear the bodies. 900, they came in and they literally just saw a field of 912 dead people.
Where's your dog?
There's my dog. His name is Gio.
I think he probably just imagined seeing a field of 900 bodies.
He needs a lot of attention.
That's horrible. I mean, I couldn't imagine walking onto a jungle with
terrifying
900.
That's going to scar you for life. So
is that the end of that story?
Yeah, literally they just drank the fucking Flavor Aid, which I'm going to say now instead of Kool-Aid. And I'm going to tell everyone that it's accurate.
I feel like this is not their first thought, but my thought is, if I have to go, I don't want the last thing I drink to be Flavor Aid.
It is sad, right?
Like, at least give me like a glass of wine.
Right, like the Valium I'll do.
So clutching.
Like, put some Valium in my wine and I'll be good to go.
That's a typical Tuesday for you.
Might as well be doing my own Jonestown massacre.
So, what do we know anything that happened afterwards?
So
Or is
there was
that it?
one lady in the U.S. who was a member who didn't make it down there, and she still, till the day she died, said, "I wish I had been there with my colleagues to commit suicide with them." But no, I mean, she was the only known case who said, "I should have been
Like she
there."
was jealous they all
exactly.
died.
Like I should have been there.
She alone is the reason I
drank-
drink
yeah,
after this
exactly.
story. Well, anyway, is that why you drink?
That is literally why I drank.
That's probably why you were drinking last night when you did this research.
Always.
You're like, oh, they just inject Flavor Aid with cyanide into it. Gulp, gulp,
It's
gulp.
little children. If I ever need a reason to drink, that's it.
You know, the main reason I wanted to do this podcast is because we both, without the microphones, talk about just how messed up the world is.
It's so messed up.
So I'm glad that we now have a reason to drink publicly
Yeah, we can, like,
instead of just doing this in the shadows.
this is just us making an excuse for why we drink milkshakes and wine on a regular basis.
To anyone listening, hi, Mom.
Hey, Daddy.
Hi, our two fans. We chose to do this and name it And That's Why I Drink, purely because all we talk about are stories like this. And at the end, we realize that our milkshakes and bottles of wine are empty. So this must be why we
It's
drink.
the trigger.
It's the sauce. I just can't get out of it. Well, that was a great story.
That was.
Now that the damage is done, how do you think your parents will respond to this? Since we talked about other people's misery, let's hear. What do you think the first phone call after listening to this podcast will be?
I think I'll get one because I don't think they'll be thrilled.
The first thing my mother will do, she's really good at doing like the 3-point argument thing. Well, she's also she speaks for a living, like goes on stage and just says whatever she wants, and people have to listen to her.
That's a dream job.
Except it's about financial retirement.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
You know, not my favorite topic.
Not quite.
But so she's really good after 30 years of doing it, how to form an opinion and do it as like politely as possible.
She's
while
gonna
also
critique.
Right. The first thing she's going to do is be like, I want to start with something good. Because her thing is always give 2 positives and a negative.
Oh.
Do a positive first, then a negative, and then end on a high note so they forget that you criticized
you do the valley, the dip.
Right. She will be like, I thought you did a great job. I don't know Christine. I love Christine, though. I think she did a great job, too.
I love you, too.
She is going to be like, I noticed there was some swearing. And I need you to remember that this is something everyone's listening to.
My parents are not going to be into that part.
And I'm going to say, I don't fucking care.
I was not allowed to say crap when I was little.
I remember the day I was allowed to start saying crap. I was 10 years old, and I said crap probably 50 times in one day.
Your parents were like, you are now allowed. Like, was it like when you turned 10?
Yeah, my stamp of approval. No, I said it, and then I looked at them, and it was the first time they didn't react. And I was like, I guess we're in this for the long haul now. My mom's rule was I could start swearing once I got to high school, which also I know my mother well enough to know that she's already. We haven't even put this on the air yet, and she's already promoted it, probably to her mother. So now my grandmother is hearing some insider.
Hi, Grandma.
She's also not happy.
My grandmas are for sure not listening to this.
My grandma is going to tell me that ladies don't swear, especially on the air, and I'm going to say sorry.
I'm so
But I'm not going to
sorry.
I don't know. She's going to be proud, but she's going to pick who she shows this to.
My parents are going to be really worried about my mental health, but I feel like that's like valid.
My mother's aware of my mental health and the
was
fact
gonna
that it's steadily declining.
It's about time they figure it out.
Well, I think it's going to go well. I think hopefully a friend listens to this one day and then at least pretends to have liked it, so I can be like, wow, neat. Oh, today at Starbucks when I was doing all my research, I was sitting next to a girl, and I was praised about the Winchester House. Like, I was writing, I brought 2 different notebooks, and I brought this little notepad. My handy dandy notebook. I had them all sprawled out on a table. It looked like I was figuring out a true crime. I had, like, numbers and symbols, and I just looked like a lunatic, and I had, like, my headphones on listening to music, and so I couldn't hear her, but when she like tapped me on the shoulder, I probably darted at her. Like, I just looked like crazed. Like she had interrupted me in the peak of my what I was about to figure out. And I guess she had been like watching me research like all these weird like murders and like paranormal things, and I was like, oh, I'm busted. Like, she's gonna think I'm the weirdest person on earth. And she ended up being like, why are you looking at that? Like, I've been to that house before. And I was like, oh, we're starting a podcast, and you know, we're gonna talk about it on the podcast. And she was like, wow, what's your podcast? So we have we have a listener,
like a stranger who, oh my gosh,
I know. So thank you, woman from Starbucks.
We love you. And also,
first fan.
We should probably make business cards so we can just force people to Google us.
I mean, we should make business cards just so we can shove them into people's hands.
Well, that also. And I feel like at this point I should mention again that our podcast is called And That's Why We Drink.
Yeah.
In case you forgot.
Yeah. That being said, I'm glad we drank.
Yeah,
I wouldn't have gone through those stories without that.
No,
without
exactly.
a nice cup of ice cream.
We want to talk about these things, but like you can't do it without just some like a crutch, like a
right.
something to keep you going.
Well, good. I hope other people drank along.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we really encourage that. But don't drive afterward unless you're drinking a milkshake. Then you can drive.
if you're Team M, you can drive
Team
with
M.
the milkshake.
Yeah, Team M.
If you're Team
drive.
Christine and you're like falling over.
If you're Team Christine, you're probably lactose intolerant.
If you're Team Christine, you're probably already halfway through your box of wine.
You're asleep by now. It's
all right.
Okay. Well, if you want, you can find us on Twitter.
Yeah, or Facebook.
Yeah, or email.
And we have an email address too for you to send us your stories.
Right.
About any paranormal experiences you've had, because eventually I want to get into not just talking about famous hauntings, but I want people to...
Personal.
I think that's always more interesting.
Those are the best ones.
So if you have a story about maybe being a murderer, maybe...
Or being murdered. I mean, you don't want to discriminate.
If you almost didn't make it and you have a story...
Or if you're murdered and you're a ghost. There's a lot of
Wow.
I know.
That would be probably our number one fan.
That would cover both our bases.
If you've ever been in a haunted house and had a cool story, if you've ever been anywhere
at all in the world,
if you've been on Earth and had a haunting, or you've been part of a conspiracy, or if you have any cool story relating to the paranormal or true crime, please write in. If you have friends, which everyone besides us do, please tell them to write in
and be our friends also, and listen to us, because we're only doing this out of total vanity. And rate and subscribe us, please, on iTunes. Our Twitter handle is ATWWD podcast. Our email,
let's go for that,
is andthat'swhywedrink@gmail.com. So shoot us a message.
Find us on Facebook. Message us that way.
Facebook also, and That's Why We Drink. We're all over.
We're all over the cybersphere.
You know, we're pretty hip.
We have no friends, so we're just really good at the internet.
Please be our friend.
Okay. Well, with that, that was a nice podcast.
That was fun.
All right. I guess we're going to make another one of these puppies one day for you to listen to.
So stay tuned for episode 2.
Bye. And that's why we drink.